Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Aisha Munk, a neuroscientist, psychologist, and medical doctor, and dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of the human brain. Here, we explore how our minds shape our behaviors, relationships, and health. Today, we'll dive into one of the most compelling and complex topics in neuroscience and psychology, pornography and its impact on the brain. Pornography is everywhere. It's easily accessible, highly stimulating, and consumed by billions globally. But what happens when something so common begins to influence how your brain works, how you think, and even how you behave? Is it possible for pornography to become addictive? If so, what makes it different from other addictions like drugs or alcohol? This video is not about judgment, it's about science. By the end of this discussion, you'll understand how the brain processes pornography, when it becomes harmful, and what steps you can take to recover if you feel its effect in your life. So let's get started. Pornography consumption is staggering. Recent research shows that 70 to 90% of men and 30 to 60% of women report consuming pornography regularly. Among young adults aged 18 to 24, consumption rates rise even higher, particularly among men. The average of first exposure is about 11 years, with many children stumbling upon explicit content unintentionally. For some, this is occasional entertainment, but for others, pornography becomes a compulsive behavior, a reliance that mirrors addiction. Surveys estimate that 3 to 6% of adults globally meet the clinical criteria for pornography addiction, with young men aged 18 to 30 being the most affected demographic. So, why does pornography have such a powerful grip on the brain? To understand this, we must explore how the brain reward system works. At the heart of the human experience is the reward system, a neural network that drives motivation, pleasure, and survival behaviors. It evolved to ensure we seek out activities that promote survival, such as eating, bonding, and reproduction. But it's also vulnerable to overstimulation. So let's dive deeper into the brain's reward system, talking about dopamine, the nucleus accumbens, the prefrontal cortex, and the ventral tegmental area, or VTA. All of them are part of the brain's reward system. So dopamine. Dopamine is basically the motivator. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that drives motivation, learning, and reward-seeking behaviors. Contrary to popular beliefs, dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about anticipation of reward, but on the other hand, also related to motor functions. When you see or expect something rewarding, like food or sexual content, dopamine surges, motivating you to pursue it. Pornography kind of hijacks this process. The novelty of new actors, scenarios, or genres triggers dopamine repeatedly, far exceeding the stimulation found in natural sexual interactions. Over time, this creates an intense reinforcement loop. The nucleus accumbens is also part of the reward system, basically the brain's pleasure hub. The nucleus accumbens is the core of the reward system. It processes dopamine signals and generates the feelings of pleasure associated with rewards. Repeated exposure to pornography strengthens neural pathways in this region, associating porn with intense pleasure. This creates a reward shortcut where the brain starts prioritizing pornography over other activities. The prefrontal cortex is basically the control center. This region is responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and evaluating long-term consequences. Chronic pornography use weakens the prefrontal cortex, a phenomenon called hypofrontality, making it harder to resist cravings or stop compulsive behaviors. The ventral tegmental area, or VTA, is the dopamine producer. The VTA produces dopamine and sends it to the nucleus accumbens and prefrontal cortex. When overstimulated by pornography, it amplifies the feedback loop of anticipation and reward, reinforcing habitual use. Let's break down the specific changes that occur in the brain due to chronic pornography use. So what happens here? I broke it down into steps also, although this is a simplification of the mechanisms, but easier to understand. The first step, dopamine hijacking, the initial hook. Dopamine, as I already said, is released during pleasurable activities, rewarding behaviors that support survival, like eating and reproduction. However, pornography artificially spikes dopamine levels far beyond what's typically experienced in real-life sexual or emotional interactions. Unlike natural sexual experiences, which are bound by physical and emotional cues, pornography provides limitless variety. Each new video or image acts as a dopamine jackpot, tricking the brain into thinking it's encountering a novel mating opportunity. This continual spike conditions the brain to prioritize pornography over other sources of pleasure. Pornography is considered a supernormal stimulus, meaning it exaggerates natural triggers for reward. Just as processed junk food overstimulates taste receptors with excessive sugar and fat, pornography overstimulates the reward system with hypersexualized and unrealistic depictions of intimacy. Over time, the brain becomes dependent on these exaggerated dopamine spikes, making it harder to feel satisfied by normal levels of stimulation. The second step, desensitization, numbing the brain's reward system. With repeated exposure to pornography, the brain's dopamine receptors become less sensitive to stimulation, a phenomenon called desensitization. Studies have shown that chronic pornography users exhibit lower activity in brain areas associated with reward processing, such as the nucleus accumbens. This means they require higher levels of stimulation to feel the same level of arousal or pleasure. We have a blunted dopamine response, basically. This can have an impact on everyday pleasures. As the brain becomes desensitized to dopamine, users report feeling numb to everyday joys, such as spending time with loved ones, enjoying hobbies, or even engaging in real-life sexual intimacy. This diminished capacity for pleasure is known as anhedonia, a common symptom in behavioral and substance addictions. The third step, hypofrontality, weakened self-control. Repeated overstimulation of the reward system also affects the prefrontal cortex, the brain's control center for decision-making, impulse regulation, and long-term planning. Chronic pornography use leads to a condition called hypofrontality, where this region becomes underactive. A weakened prefrontal cortex makes it harder to resist cravings or evaluate the long-term consequences of pornography use. This explains why some individuals continue watching pornography despite knowing it's interfering with their relationships, work, or mental health. With the prefrontal cortex compromised, users may find themselves trapped in a cycle of compulsive consumption where the urge to watch porn feels almost automatic, bypassing rational decision-making. The fourth step, altered brain structure. Modern brain imaging studies have provided evidence of how pornography addiction can actually change the brain's structure. Studies have shown that heavy pornography users have reduced gray matter in the striatum, a region critical for reward processing and motivation. This structural loss is similar to findings in drug addiction studies, where chronic substance use erodes brain volume in key areas. Pornography addictions also weakens the connection between the prefrontal cortex, the brain's control center, and the limbic system, the emotional brain. This disconnection reduces the brain's ability to regulate emotional responses and impulsive behaviors, increasing the likelihood of compulsive use. Meanwhile, regions like the amygdala, which govern emotional processing and stress responses, may become overactive. This can lead to heightened emotional reactivity, making users more vulnerable to triggers such as stress, boredom, or negative emotions. The fifth step, escalation, the drive for more extreme content. One of the most concerning effects of pornography addiction is escalation, where users seek increasingly extreme or taboo content to achieve the same level of arousal. As the brain becomes desensitized to dopamine, users find that content they once enjoyed no longer provides them the same thrill. This drives them to explore more explicit, novel, or even shocking material just to achieve the same desired effect. This can lead to a distortion of sexual preferences, where users develop arousal patterns that are disconnected from their real-life relationships or personal values. Many also report feelings of shame, guilt, or confusion about their evolving preferences. Sixth step, stress response dysregulation, the brain's coping mechanism. Pornography use often becomes a way to cope with negative emotions like stress, loneliness, or boredom. However, this creates a feedback loop that just reinforces the dependency. When users turn to pornography for relief, the brain learns to associate porn consumption with emotional regulation. This reinforces the behavior, making it the default response to stress or discomfort. Over time, the brain's natural ability to regulate stress just diminishes. This leaves users more emotionally reactive and reliant on pornography to manage negative feelings, perpetuating this cycle of addiction. The seventh step, compulsive behavioral loops, why it feels impossible to stop. The combination of desensitization, hypofrontality, and emotional dysregulation creates a self-reinforcing loop. Cravings. Triggered by stress, boredom, or even environmental cues, cravings activate the brain's reward pathways, urging users to seek relief through pornography. Temporary relief. Watching porn provides a dopamine spike, temporarily relieving stress or discomfort. Regret and shame. Afterwards, users may feel guilt or frustration, but the weakened prefrontal cortex makes it harder to resist the next craving. This loop mirrors the cycle seen in substance addiction, where immediate gratification overrides long-term well-being. To fully understand why pornography addiction poses significant challenges, it's important to look at multifaceted impact on the brain, behavior, relationships, and society. Now I'm going to give an in-depth explanation of why chronic pornography use can become problematic. On the brain level, we have the hijacked reward system, the overstimulation of dopamine pathways. Pornography floods the brain with dopamine at levels far beyond what natural experiences provide. This artificial overstimulation conditions the brain to prioritize pornography over other meaningful activities and relationships. So what's the problem? Over time, the brain learns to associate arousal, excitement, and stress relief almost exclusively with pornography, crowding out other healthy sources of pleasure. This rewiring can leave individuals less satisfied with everyday life and unable to experience joy from real-world experiences. Desensitization. Excessive use numbs the brain's response to dopamine by reducing dopamine receptors, leading to tolerance. Users then seek increasingly extreme or novel content to achieve the same level of arousal. This escalatory pattern can normalize unrealistic or unhealthy sexual behaviors, skewing perceptions of intimacy and distorting real-life relationships. Hyperfrontality. The chronic overstimulation weakens the prefrontal cortex, reducing the brain's ability to resist cravings, manage impulses, or make long-term decisions. Users may find themselves unable to quit despite knowing the behavior is harming their relationships, mental health, or productivity, creating a cycle of compulsion and regret. It can also lead to relationship challenges because of distorted perceptions of intimacy. Pornography often portrays highly exaggerated, scripted, and unrealistic depictions of intimacy. These depictions can condition users to expect similar experiences in real life, which are rarely achievable. So partners may feel inadequate or objectified, leading to dissatisfaction, resentment, or emotional disconnection in relationships. Chronic pornography use can reduce a person's ability to connect emotionally with their partner. This can manifest as decreased interest in real-life intimacy, lower sexual satisfaction, or also erectile dysfunction. So users might prioritize pornography over their partners, creating emotional distance and weakening trust, communication, and closeness in the relationship. Young men in particular are reporting higher rates of erectile dysfunction associated pornography use. The constant overstimulation from pornography can train the brain to respond only to artificial stimuli, while real-life interactions feel less arousing. Porn-induced erectile dysfunction can cause anxiety, shame, and additional strain in relationships, leading to a cycle of avoidance and dependency on pornography. So, what are the mental health consequences? Chronic pornography consumption can lead to increased anxiety and depression. Excessive pornography use has been linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. Users often report feelings of guilt or shame about their behavior, which can exacerbate emotional distress. As mental health declines, users may rely more heavily on pornography as a coping mechanism, just reinforcing the addiction cycle. Pornography consumption is often a solitary activity, which can discourage social interactions and reduce opportunities for forming meaningful relationships. Over time, this isolation can worsen feelings of loneliness, creating another feedback loop where users turn to pornography to escape the very emotion it amplifies. Pornography can sap motivation by hijacking the brain's reward system. The immediate gratification it provides may reduce the drive to pursue long-term goals or engage in fulfilling activities. Users may struggle with procrastination, reduced productivity, and a lack of engagement in work, education, or hobbies. Many users also experience a disconnection between their behavior and their values, leading to inner conflict. They may view their consumption as unhealthy or morally wrong, but feel unable to stop. This cognitive dissonance, what's called, can create a cycle of guilt, withdrawal, and further reliance on pornography as a coping mechanism. Chronic pornography consumption can also have an impact on youth and early exposure, the risk of early brain wiring. With the average first exposure at around 11 years old, many children encounter pornography before they have a clear understanding at all of healthy relationships or sexuality. So early exposure can shape unrealistic expectations about sex and intimacy, influencing attitudes and behaviors throughout adolescence and adulthood. Adolescents' brains are still developing, particularly the prefrontal cortex. Early exposure to pornography can condition their reward systems during critical developmental stages. This can increase the likelihood of developing compulsive behaviors, desensitization, and distorted views of relationships at a young age. The widespread availability of pornography has normalized highly idealized and unrealistic depictions of beauty, bodies, and sexual behavior. This can lead to body dissatisfaction, performance anxiety, and unrealistic expectations in relationships, affecting individuals and the society as a whole. Pornography also often portrays power imbalances or objectification, which can reinforce unhealthy views of consent and intimacy. This may contribute to societal issues like toxic masculinity, the commodification of individuals, or a lack of understanding about mutual respect in relationships. The combination of neurological, psychological, and relational consequences makes pornography addiction particularly dangerous. The chronic dependence. As the addiction progresses, users may struggle to quit despite knowing its negative impact on their lives. Cumulative relationship strain. Over time, addiction can erode trust, intimacy, and communication in relationships, sometimes leading to separation or divorce. Permanent perception changes. Long-term exposure to extreme content may result in lasting distortions of sexual preferences, desires, and expectations, even after recovery. So why does this matter? Pornography addiction matters because it impacts not just the individual, but also their relationships, community, and even societal norms. The problems arise when pornography is no longer a choice, but a compulsion, when it disrupts mental health, intimacy, and life satisfaction. By understanding the science behind these changes, we can break the cycle, promote healthier behaviors, and foster genuine connection and well-being. The good news is that the brain has an extraordinary ability to heal. Through neuroplasticity, the changes caused by pornography addiction can be reversed and natural reward system can be restored. But recovery requires time, effort, and a commitment to replacing unhealthy habits with positive cues. So how can you make this happen? First, dopamine reset. Abstaining from pornography gives the brain time to restore dopamine sensitivity, making natural rewards pleasurable again. Second, strengthening the prefrontal cortex. Activities like mindfulness, meditation, and exercise improve self-control and decision-making. Third, rewiring neural pathways. Replacing pornography with healthy habits like pursuing hobbies, socializing, or creative activities weakens old pathways and forms new, healthier ones. Fourth, therapeutic support. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can support groups such as NoFap or Reboot Nation, provide guidance, accountability, and tools for managing cravings and triggers. So in case you have the feeling that you feel addicted, go find someone who does cognitive behavioral therapy and you will get some help there. Pornography has a profound impact on the brain, shaping its structure and function in ways that can lead to compulsive behaviors. But knowledge is power. By understanding how your brain works and when behaviors become harmful, you can make informed decisions and take steps toward recovery. Let's recap what we learned about how pornography interacts with the brain and when it becomes harmful. First, the brain's reward system and dopamine hijacking. Pornography overstimulates the brain's reward system by providing constant novelty and exaggerated stimulation. This leads to repeated dopamine surges, reinforcing the habit and making it more rewarding than natural experiences. Second, desensitization and tolerance. Over time, the brain becomes less sensitive to dopamine, requiring more extreme or novel content to feel the same level of pleasure. This numbs the brain's response to everyday joys and can distort perceptions of intimacy. Third, structural and functional brain changes. Chronic pornography use weakens the prefrontal cortex, impairing impulse control and decision-making. It also reduces gray matter in the brain's reward centers and disrupts the connections that regulate emotions and cues. Fourth, compulsive behavior loops and escalation. Many users find themselves stuck in a cycle of cravings, temporary relief, and regret. Escalation to more extreme content often follows, creating psychological distress and further reinforcing addiction. When does it become harmful? Pornography crosses the line into harmful use when it disrupts relationships, daily responsibilities, or mental health, or when withdrawal symptoms like anxiety and irritability emerge. Recovery is possible through neuroplasticity as the brain can rewire itself. Abstinence, mindfulness, exercise, and therapeutic support can help restore the brain's natural balance, improve self-control, and rebuild healthy reward pathways. Porn addiction isn't about shame. It's about understanding the science behind our behaviors and taking intentional steps to regain control. Whether you or someone you know is struggling, the key is knowledge, support, and a commitment to change. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the neuroscience of pornography addiction. I hope this video provided you with valuable insights and tools to better understand this very, very much important topic. If you found this content helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others who might benefit from it. On this channel, we explore the fascinating intersection of neuroscience, mental health, behavior, and physical health. So be sure to check out my other videos for more insights. Together, we can use science to empower ourselves and take control of our lives. I'm Dr. Aisha Munk. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.